The Rise Today Inspirational Podcast is brought to you by two relentless health warriors, Dr. Erica Harris, an empowered mindset health expert who is the passionate founder of RiseToday.com, and Megan Hubner, an entrepreneurial marketing strategist and founder of Hubner Marketing. These two inspirational forces have truly thrived through adversity and are here to empower you to do the same. Together, they serve to open up the conversation about hardship and to move you to greatness through your adversities. Learn more at risetoday.com/podcast. Now, let's get started. Let's rise today, right here, right now.
It's a good day. Get up. Can't you see the sun shining?
Hey everyone, welcome back, Thrivers. We hope you found inspiration and strength and courage from our last show where we featured filmmaker Joe Capozzi, who opened up the very delicate conversation of child abuse and his experiences of sexual molestation from a Catholic priest. He talked openly about the importance of opening up the conversation and releasing the emotional toll that often comes in tow. We hope you truly valued that podcast release as much as we did. And today, we are very excited to welcome Stephanie Keena to the show today. Steph joins us from the mountains in Revelstoke. Steph is truly an inspirational human on endless accounts. She serves as a nutritional coach. She is a CrossFit gym owner and a trainer. She is a proud mom to two beautiful girls. And she is here today with us to open up the conversation about our confidence in our body image. And she will share her struggles with anorexia. And she'll tell us all about how she's come to be the incredible powerhouse that she is today. Megan, will you please help me welcome Steph to the show?
Thank you so much for joining us today, Steph. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks so much for inviting me on. I'm excited to be here.
We're thrilled. We have not talked about this topic yet, so this is really exciting. We really, Eric and I, when we are looking at guests, we really try and bring a large diversity in the guests that we have on the show. And we really hope that we kind of, reach people on lots of different levels. And so by you sharing your story today, we really thank you for that because, I know as a powerful, strong female, you can then help with your, with the raising of your kids, but with the raising of the others that we share this podcast with. So thank you very much for sharing your story today. So you stand before us, a very strong, confident, beautiful woman who, if you are to look at her gym website, you guys, she is the picture of fitness here. And I know that your confidence you exude today wasn't always the same as it is now. So can you kind of take us back a little bit to sort of when, some of your, let's say, hardships or breakdown or however you like to phrase it, when did it all start?
Yeah, definitely. So I started in competitive sports at a young age. So I started in figure skating when I was 3.
That's
and
young.
so yeah, I was in competitive sports and then I was in dance and I was in swimming, and after skating I went to ski racing. So I was in a lot of sports where there was a lot of body image, I guess, or a focus on body, especially with skating and dancing. And when I hit puberty, my body really started to change. And for me, skating, that was the big one, is that I was no longer able to do like the spins and the jump because I gained weight and my body changed.
Yeah.
And from there, I went into ski racing, and that was a good sport for me because I was strong and I had strong legs. I always had quads. I was joking, I had quads since I was 3 years old. I think I was born with them. And so when I went to ski racing, it was kind of the same. Like I was wearing downhill suits, and I guess like a bigger girl. And so I started to feel, I guess I told my mom that I wanted to go on a diet, and I started to wanting to change my body. I didn't want to be that strong athlete at that time. My high school friends weren't athletes. I traveled I was on the Northern Ontario ski team, so we traveled around a lot. And so I didn't, I had those friends, that group of friends that were good influences and positive in the sport. But then when I was at home, like my friends in high school were a lot different. And so I started just by saying to my mom, like, I want to lose some weight. I specifically remember a summer that it was the summer that they decided they were going to do a fat test in my ski racing camp that I was going to go to. And I was so afraid to be, the fattest person there.
Yeah.
And so I started to lose weight. I started just to, take things out of my diet, like, sweets and then, and it just kind of started from there. And then that next winter, so I did lose weight. I probably lost like 10 or 15 pounds.
Wow.
That following winter, I just kept losing weight. I kind of like, without even really realizing it, I think I just kind of got caught in that trap. And the more weight I lost, the people started to tell me how good I looked, and then it was like, well, I guess I really was, fat before. And so that was kind of how anorexia began for me. Just, I don't think anyone ever plans to be anorexic. That was back in the, in the 80s. So it wasn't something that was really well known. It wasn't in the media even. And so my mom really struggled with it and not knowing how to deal with me, I think.
Yeah.
And then finally, like over probably a year and a half, I dropped down to 80 pounds. And my parents finally were like, I kept, you classic, like lying, saying, I'm going to eat and I'm going to get better. And then my parents were like, no, because I was only 15. So they wanted to admit me to Toronto's Kids Hospital, but I wasn't sick enough to go there, though I was 80 pounds and like, on deathbed. Like really, I was really not doing well, but I was not sick enough to be in the sick kids program. So they put me in an adults program in Toronto. So I ended up going into an adults program for, I think it was about 8 months that I was there in the hospital. And that's where I began the journey to recovery. So that was, the start of it.
So from, the time that you spend in the hospital, and I recognize that's a tricky time in your life. Well, number one, you're in the hospital, but you're in that uncomfortable age between not quite a child, not quite an adult, and you're kind of in that gray area. And I know that a lot of teens fall into that space. When you came out of the hospital, like what next? Where did you go? How supported did you feel?
That's it. So you come out of the hospital and I was still, because I was so malnourished at the time, when I came out, I was still only 85 pounds. Like
Oh, wow.
my body was so malnourished, so deprived of nutrients and food that when I started eating again, like it was just going back to my organs. I actually lost feeling in my knee, down my foot, because my body started cutting off body parts because it was just needed to feed my organs. And at the time, like I was so in the disease, like I was basically said to my mom, if I have to eat, I would rather die. Like I was basically at that point of almost, suicidal, where I did not want to eat. And so when I came out of the hospital, I'd gone through at the hospital, I'd had lots of therapy and I was very resistant at the beginning. I did not want to be there. I didn't believe that I had an issue. And then as the time progressed in the hospital, I had a moment where we were out and my dad kind of just like grabbed me, and we were out shopping and I was like a size 0, and my dad just like grabbed me and it was like, look at you, look what you look like. And I saw myself for the first time. Like you have such a distorted image of yourself. And I finally saw myself and I scared myself. I was like, I look like a skeleton. And then from there, I like kind of something has shifted for me mentally, where I started to want to get better. And because you have to, that's the hardest part when you're in that disease, that individual has to make the choice to get better, right? If they don't make that choice and that commitment, they're never going to get on that road to recovery. They're just going to keep going. And once I made the decision to get better, I came out, and it was a long journey for me to get to where I am right now. I'm 46. I, came out of the hospital being really small, still having really weird food, issues with food. Like I would only eat peanut butter sandwiches. Like I had really weird, for me, food was a control issue. I'd suffered some trauma early in my life. And so I think that I was sexually abused when I was young. a lot of things came out of, of why I went to the control of food. For me, I didn't, that I didn't want to grow up. I didn't want to be looked at. I didn't want people to look at my body. So there's a whole bunch of issues there that were going on. And food was the way that I dealt with it and how I thought I control my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had these weird habits throughout, my 20s, my 30s, even like of whenever something would go wrong, like that's how I would control my life. And so, I feel like finally in my 40s, becoming, the nutrition journey for me was really, when I started in my nutrition coaching, all my certifications that I've gone through, I thought I, had my nutrition kind of dialed. And then I realized I still had these, like, I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't eating enough protein. Like I still had these things I was holding on to from so long ago.
Absolutely. And a lot of those are paradigms that this is how we were raised. And then you take those habits and behaviors all the way through as you go. Now, when you take a look back at where you were in those days where you were really sick and stuff, what were some of the warning signs that parents that had kids in that age range should be looking for, that you in hindsight, look back and think, oh yeah, that would have been a warning sign?
Yeah. So for me, it was a struggle for my mom because I was away. Like I traveled a lot with my team. And so I basically wasn't around in the winter. I wore baggy clothes. I think for me, it was, I would lie, like sneak, like, oh, I ate, like I had and I would always, like looking, my mom was amazing. Like my mom, like, I think my biggest regret is what I did to my mom. Like my mom blamed herself. What she went through with me is, anyways, it was really hard for her. And she's a super supportive, loving, like, person. But I don't know. Like, I think the warning signs, I just think, losing weight loss is a huge one, right? Like that's like, if your child's losing weight, I have two girls right now. I have a 9 and 11-year-old, and I'm hyper aware of it.
Yes.
I try to just be so, like not, so militant on everything, but try to like encourage healthy eating and exercise and how important it is, and just encouraging them on like how their body is, they're strong and beautiful, like just really trying to empower them to love who they are. But yeah, weight loss, like big, weight loss is huge. Like if you're seeing your child start to lose weight, start to have like good food, bad foods, not eating certain things, naturally kids might be like, I'm not gonna eat. I know treats would be one for kids, but yeah, just showing any signs of like restrictive behavior at that age is.
Do you think that you struggled with depression during that time as well?
Definitely the disease would lead to that because it is so
secondary.
like I wasn't feeding my brain. Like your brain needs 500 calories just to function. And there's days I would eat an apple. Like I was so malnourished, like my brain, I would just sleep. Like I had no energy. There would be periods where I'd be super obsessive about exercise. Like I would, and that's another warning sign is compulsive behavior with exercise. So, for me, I would go to the YMCA, our local gym, and go spend like an hour on the elliptical or whatever, like I was obsessive about cardio. And so I think that like, if you're seeing your child, like any kind of compulsive behavior, it's definitely a red flag. I think.
Good word, for sure. For sure. So, you go through this treatment program at the hospital, your dad kind of grabs hold of you at the store that one day and says, just like, look what you're doing to your beautiful body. And from that moment, that really sunk in. And so what was the process that you went through over the next couple of months? Because we know that when we start to change patterns or behaviors, it's difficult and we end up against barriers and then we kind of revert back to where we were. And so, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So what were some tangible things that you think would help people get from there out of this whole cycle that has been come about?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like now I tell my nutrition clients, I'm like, it's not a straight line. You're gonna fall off. You're going to, and I think being kind to yourself about it, it's like, it's a process. And I think so many of us just want it to be now. We want to be better. We want that magic pill. That's just, and for me, it was so slow. It was baby steps. Like, I don't even like, it was so slow. And then eventually things started to kind of, then I went to university, and like I was in a different phase of my life, I think, getting out of, but all through those later years in high school, like I don't even know how I got through high school. Like I did night school, I did summer school, like I had to catch up because I missed so much school. But it's a slow process. It's not, and just like, no, it's not a straight line. There's, and then, later in life, when things come up or stress, those are patterns that often, like, I mean, the recovery rate for anorexia is super, the stats are really low for recovery, right? I think it's like somewhere near 90% of our anorexics never fully recover, which is a really scary high number. And like, it's because I feel like you hold on to that. And like you said, behaviors are hard to change. So when stress comes up in your life, if those are patterns that we would revert back to because we know those patterns, maybe they comfort us, or we revert back to those patterns. And I've sworn to myself, I will never go back there. Like, those were such dark days for me. Like, I will never. My parents still worry about me. I'm 46 and they still worry. And I will never go back there.
So Steph, you had done this really great post on Facebook a few weeks back where you talked about, your perceptions and how you felt about these strong legs of yours as a child and around 12 and growing up, and the negative perceptions that you had of those strong legs at that point, and now how proud you are of your strong legs. And how do we get into the minds of others and really interrupt the conversation that happens in so many minds of young girls and women alike, right? So many struggle with confidence in their body image. And what are tools that we can all use to really get in and interrupt that conversation that so many of us have when we're getting dressed in the morning or looking in the mirror? Or what are tools that we can use on a day-to-day basis to switch from this negative perception of these strong legs to really coming to find value and pride in these strong legs of ours?
It's a negative self-talk, that we have to ourselves when we look and we, judge ourselves so harshly. Like, I don't know why women are so hard on themselves.
Right?
Like, men, rock their, they're like, they are quite accepting of their body, and women are so like gorgeous women that are so critical of their body. And we all are, we're never, the grass is always greener on the other side. We wish we had straight hair, we have curly hair, we wish we had strong legs, or long legs, or we're always wishing for something else. Is that self-acceptance is a journey. It doesn't, like I said, it's taken me to my 40s to create that self-acceptance of myself and being okay with that my body, and being more accepting of like, well, now it's like, well, what can my body do, which is pretty amazing. It's hard. I mean, positive influencers like are people in your life, mentors in your life, having people that surround yourself with positive people, with your friends that, bring you up and don't bring you down and are not judgmental. Like, I say this to my girls, I'm like, don't, friends should, your true friends should be the ones that are positive, and they're not, negative, or they're not, bringing you down. They're the ones that lift you up and support you. Like, we need real friends.
You had a really great point too on catching ourselves in this negative self-talk that we can all get on this spinning cycle of, all of us, right? Mm-hmm. And catching ourselves through this process of awareness. Only once we're aware, then can we shift our mindset and shift these patterns, and only can habits really truly develop once we practice this enough, right? And then it almost becomes habitual, that we look and we're like, wow, these strong legs are phenomenal, right? But only through this practice of awareness and repetition can we really get to that point.
These days, social media, like when I was growing up, like we had magazines, and that's what I was looking at to aspire to.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Magazines. And now social media, like you're bombarded with images. Like, it is so scary out there for girls, men, women, for everyone, because it's like way more in your face, it's way more subliminal, and there's just lots out there, lots of noise out there. So one big thing is say, like, limit social media.
Yes.
because it's
Yeah.
so, we're seeing the best of people, the best light, the best, we're not seeing really what they truly look like or what, they truly move. And so in my posts, I really try to be authentic. Like I try to show movements. I try to show authenticity. I'm not trying to be a fitness influencer. I'm just trying to be authentic and show people what they can do and how to move your body, but not, in a way that's like, I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. I want to empower people instead.
That's amazing. I want you to break a little here, Steph. Tell us about some of these amazing feats that your body can do with all of this strength and all of this power that you have fueled yourself with.
Yeah, so I guess 4 or 5 years ago, I met my husband, and he was a CrossFit trainer, and he was, said, "Oh, you should try CrossFit." Like when we were just dating, and I was like, "No, I've seen CrossFit. I know what they do. I'm not doing that." I was a cardio junkie. Like I was a runner, a biker, like I was a skier, and I did not lift weights. Like I was not, I didn't go to the gym. And so when I started, I always laugh at myself now because I would lift, like a light deadlift, and I thought it was so cool. And, and I was now I look back, and I said to my husband, he always reminds me, he's like, I was like, I'm never going to lift heavy. Like I have no desire to lift heavy. I just want to work on my technique. And then, that was like a 50-pound deadlift. Now I have like a 310-pound deadlift. That was
Atta girl.
So that too, like that was a big shift for me. Like that CrossFit is an amazing platform because I feel like it's embraced women with muscles. It's these amazing women that are doing all these things that maybe weren't socially acceptable a while ago, or like we didn't, women are doing that, and and have these muscles, but now they're being celebrated, and this platform is worldwide and is huge, and it's what your body can do, not what you look like. It's not like what you look like in the gym and what your bra, what your outfit's like. It's like, what can you actually do with your body? So I've really enjoyed that in CrossFit, and I started competing as a master's athlete. So I started competing probably 3 years ago. It's really fun. And now I'm in the category 45 to 49. So I compete with women, and I've gone to a bunch of competitions. I was in Miami last February, and they're great. Like, we're talking about our kids, and it's a really great group of women in the category that I'm in, and they're supportive, and we're into the same thing, which is cool. Like it's like that tribe of women that is like, we all like to work out and like to lift heavy weights. So
it sounds like this phenomenal community of empowerment and support. It's really incredible.
It always hurts me when people are like, "Oh, I'm 40. They turn 40 and they're like, oh, they kind of give up." It's like, oh, come on, I'm 46 and I'm getting stronger as I get older. And like,
totally,
like CrossFit, the ages go to 65. And I watched this Conscious Cup a while ago, and there's a 65-year-old woman doing handstand walks. So like, it is truly amazing. And it's really like, their age doesn't define us. Don't let age define us.
So there are these amazing communities of support out there for us all to join and to get this empowerment and to get this community of support. So seek them out in your own communities. So important. And this topic is sure a really important topic for me. I lost a younger cousin to this terrible disease of anorexia. She was top of the province athlete in every different realm. She beautiful young girl. And I remember myself at the age of 12, somebody caught me in a bathing suit and happened just to say, "Gosh, I can tell you're a phenomenal athlete. You have the strongest of legs." And I just remember wanting to run and hide. And then fast forward on that notion of when you're talking about the grass is always greener on the other side, fast forward to now in the heat of my illness, when I was 80 pounds, much like Steph was talking about, but for very different reasons. And I was working with a natural healer waiting for my lungs and just trying to stay well enough to stay the course. And this natural healer, she was working on me, and I'll never forget it. She said, "As tiny as you are, Erica, where there are legs, there is life." And instantly, my perception on my strong legs was life and vibrant and color, and it represented everything that I wanted to be. And so my perception on my strong legs has definitely taken a turn on this. And I was so happy to see that authentic nature come out in your post. And I thought this was such an important conversation to open up for so many of us. And I'm really, really honored that you're here with us today, Steph.
I was blown away by the comments on that post, like just people's experience like that. They trusted enough to share on there. And it was so cool to hear we've, as women, most women and men out there too, I don't want to exclude men, but as women in particular, most of us have struggled at some point in our life about our body awareness, and it's just how it is. And
I think it would be hard pressed to find someone who didn't have a phase in life that they were uncomfortable with. I remember I had one friend in high school, and she would not crack a smile for fear of the wrinkles that would ensue afterwards. And this was in high school. And so, it doesn't matter if it's the size of your body, the 80 pounds that you are, the fact that you have the athletic legs. I'm 6'1". I was the tallest person in the school in grade 7. The tallest person, not just kid, person. So everyone has something that they have kind of overcome and things. And so that you guys can use that to either, kind of sink you down and suppress you a little bit, or you can use it to say, hey, I overcame this. Yeah. And this is the reason I stand a little bit taller and I'm a little bit more confident. And, I get what it's like when you're talking to your 9 and your 11-year-old, and I can understand and empathize and sympathize with you. And so whatever it is, take a moment, you guys, and think what was the thing that kind of bothered me when I was growing up and stuff, and recognize it, and then own the fact that you've either overcome it or own the fact that you can still do a little bit of work around it. Because everyone has a little bit of a story.
So Steph, how can our listeners reach out to you if they are looking for this community of sport, and just from someone else who gets the journey? How can our listeners find you?
So my Instagram page, I guess, or profile is Coach S. Kina. And you said my name right, which is great. I know you know who. I usually get China, so
I would have totally pronounced it that way.
Yeah, it's okay. That's how it is. So it's Coach S. Kina. And then Mountain Made Fitness Collective is my business. And we're on Instagram, and also on, we have a webpage as well. Our webpage, that's where you'll see my nutrition information. If you have any, if you'd like to reach out about nutrition, I do nutrition consultations as well, mostly virtual.
I was just going to say, what kind of virtual appointments do you have for people?
Yeah, I've gone to an online platform now. So I do virtual, so which is great. And that's where we have a training program as well, which is virtual.
Fantastic.
Well, your authenticity and how far you have come on this journey, and to see you before us today with how strong and powerful and how courageous you are. You are such an inspiration, Steph, and this story and your authenticity here in this platform will serve so many. And I can't thank you enough.
Oh, well, thanks so much. It was so nice to meet you. Erica, it's nice to see you. And Megan, really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Time.
Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us today. That concludes our show for the Rise Today Inspirational Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Like Erica and Steph had mentioned, if this resonates with you, if it hits home, feel free to reach out to Steph on any of her social media platforms. She is there as someone that wants to, advocate for the disease and actually really, allow people to kind of seek the growth that she's seen as well. So we hope you enjoyed the episode today. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful week wherever it is you're tuning in from, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Rise Today Inspirational Podcast.
And as always, with any guests we host on our show, don't hesitate to reach out to contact them via our site at risetoday.com as well. All the best.
Bye.
It's gonna be a good day.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Take this inspiration forward. Learn more at risetoday.com/podcast. And please do help us in our mission to spread hope, inspiration, and positivity by encouraging those in your circle to join us and to tune in for our next show of inspiration coming soon. Please contact us if you have a powerful story to share with us to inspire the world. Until next time, get out there and rise today.